Good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear me out there in the back? Yeah? Okay, great. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting. We have already met in executive session, and we did our salute to the flag in there. So we're just going to do our roll call. Mr. McLaughlin?
Mr. Byrne?
Here.
Mrs. Swerner?
Here.
Mrs. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Salmon?
Here.
Mrs. White?
Here.
Mrs. Richmond?
Here.
Mrs. Korn?
Here.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Here.
Mr. Markarian?
Here.
Mr. Syatt?
He's here
Right.
somewhere.
Mrs. McCune?
Here.
Madam President?
Thank you. Before we start our meeting, I just want to draw your attention to the statement of public notice in the agenda. It explains how our meeting works, and it states that there are 2 times when you can come up for public comment. The first is earlier in the meeting, there's a public comment on agenda items where you can speak on anything that's listed on the agenda this evening. And then later in the meeting, there is a public comment on non-agenda items where you're free to speak on anything that you care to speak about. Also, it says in the statement of public notice that this meeting is being recorded. So I just wanted to point that out to you. We have an exciting evening tonight with lots of people here. Before we get started with the student recognitions, we have 2 guests here from the Somerset County Association of School Administrators. We have Nancy Gartenberg and Kevin Carroll. I'd like to invite them up to the microphone. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nancy Gartenberg, the superintendent for Montgomery Township School District.
Kevin Carroll from Greenbrook Township.
It's that time of the year, one in which we elevate, celebrate, and honor a county superintendent worthy of extra recognition by his or her peers. We are here tonight as representatives of the Somerset County Association of School Administrators as the selection committee that has chosen Nick Markarian, superintendent of the Bernards Township School District, as this year's superintendent of the year. Having observed the leadership style of Mr. Markarian throughout the years, several qualities shine through. He continually demonstrates the best qualities of a passionate leader, a selfless concern for others, an open mind to professional dialogues, an overwhelming desire to do what's best for students, and a tireless work ethic. When confronted with controversial situations in the district and within the township, a graceful approach is constant. In times where decisions get tough, his willingness to listen and show flexibility is always present. Nick always picks up the phone. He is never too busy to help out a colleague. Being a superintendent is a very lonely position, and Nick is always available to bounce ideas off of or to troubleshoot a problem. Serving in the same district for many years in different roles, his loyalty to the community is demonstrated by an unwavering commitment to excellent programming for students and a willingness to seek out cutting-edge approaches to challenges presented. Mr. Markarian labors over every decision that deals with a student. He is always willing to give time to support a colleague in need of advice, whether it be about dealing with a challenging discipline matter or questions surrounding our annual budgets. Nick has also shared his leadership expertise with the Somerset County Association of School Superintendents, having served as the treasurer, and most recently, he is the president of our organization. Because of his passionate dedication to education, his outstanding leadership skills, his collegiality, and his knowledge, Nick Markarian has been awarded the Somerset County Superintendent of the Year for the 18-19 school year. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you. That was sufficiently embarrassing.
No, I just thank Nancy and Kevin for coming tonight. Thank you for your kind words. And despite all those wonderful words, please know that I am my own worst critic, and I really spend most of my time trying to figure out how to do things better, because I think about all the things that I know I can and things that need more attention. So thank you guys so much for coming, and I promise to keep giving you my best. So thanks a lot.
Congratulations. I think you just summed up kind of what I was going to say, that you are extremely hardworking and dedicated to this district and always trying to make things better for our students. And I was going to say what you just said. So thank you for saying it for me. We have a lot of students here tonight, and we know that it is the WAMS 8th grade dance tonight. So we're going to go out of order a little bit and do the WAMS recognitions first. The board is going to come down and sit in the audience when everyone is being recognized. So we're going to do the lacrosse, WAMS lacrosse, and WAMS track first.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Just wanted to echo the sentiments of our board president, Ms. McKeon, just with respect to the great show of support in your attendance this evening and an opportunity to recognize our students, which is really what it is all about. So without further ado, we're going to get started with our William Annan students so they can get on to their dance. And I'd just like to introduce our William Annan Athletic Organization Coordinator, Rita Zerabera, who's going to help us get things started. So thanks again for coming tonight.
Thank you. So I'm going to be brief just because I know that these 8th graders want to get to their dance. So we have 2 teams that won championships in our spring middle school league, which is the Central Jersey Junior School Athletic Association. The first is our girls lacrosse team, so I'm going to ask Coach Stephanie Lang to come down.
Okay, good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight to recognize this wonderful group of young ladies that I've had the privilege to coach over the past season. This is my 5th year as head coach at William Annan, and each year I'm amazed by the level of talent, the growth by each player, and the overall camaraderie of the team throughout each season. This year our team is led by 8th grade captains Riley Olmstead and Julie Narleski, who both truly embraced the role and not only had a strong presence on the field, but were fantastic role models off the field as well. We had additional inspiration from Katie King this season, and the girls created their warm-up shirts to say Katie King strong on the back as a reminder we were also playing for her. We came out strong in our first game against Bridgewater, but an early tough loss to Branchburg forced us to reflect on our weaknesses and work harder to meet our goal of making it to playoff finals. These girls made their Annan team a priority and pushed each other to improve each and every day. They had remarkable energy all season long, were able to rise above challenges, and most importantly, always stayed positive and supportive of one another. Heading into playoffs, we had an extraordinary first-round win against Tewksbury with a halftime score of 10-1, our best half of the entire season. The semifinal round against JP Case was a tight game and truly a team effort with 5 different girls scoring and a defensive effort that shut down JP Case's lead scorer. Although it was a close game, a goal by Grace Murray in the final minute gave us the 9-8 lead to pull off the win. Told you they're supportive. The girls were beyond excited to head into our final round of playoffs in a home game against Bridgewater. It was a hard-fought, very physical game. And with minutes remaining, Kira Norton found the back of the net to give us the lead one final time for a score of 10-9. The girls were able to work together as a team to maintain possession with composure and confidence in those final minutes to earn the win and the championship title. Our volunteer goalies, Megan Coffey and Catherine Yersineau, also had 3 saves apiece in this time. It has been such a wonderful experience to coach this talented group of young ladies and watch them grow as players and teammates over the spring season. Although it's bittersweet our 8th graders will be leaving Annan and heading on to high school, I know they'll be exceptional additions to the Ridge community next year. And now it's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you the members of the William Annan girls lacrosse team and the 2018 league champions. So Avery Amato, Sam Balderson, Jackie Chiriaco, Megan Coffey, Abby Conyers, Erin Everson, Bella Goodwin, Abby Hansen, Katie Keefe, Eva Korn, Amanda Mertz, Felicia Milligan, Captain Julie Narleski, Kira Norton, Captain Riley Olmsted, Joey Peacock, Jen Prince, Catherine Yersineau, Anna Wilson, and Grace Murray, who wasn't able to make it here tonight. Thank you.
Off to the dance. You go. Thanks. Our second team that won a league championship this spring was the boys track and field team. And representing them tonight is Coach Kevin Karch.
Okay, because they do have the dance and I have a lot of names to read, there's a lot of them here. Just line up along here, guys. We'll call you off all the way down. We're not going to say too much, except for the fact that on behalf of the other coaches, this is a great team. These guys have worked very hard during the season. They were undefeated throughout the season. And the fantastic part about it is, and I was talking to Ms. Zarabara about this beforehand, is that most of them who scored in the Meet of Champions were undefeated in all of their races. And so that is exceptional. They didn't lose a race this season, which is great. We preach team, obviously, because whether you realize it or not, track, cross country is a team sport, and that's what we preach. But the individual accomplishments are something to congratulate as well. So here are the names. We've got Ro Atre. Where are you, Ro? Head down that way. Jackson Barna. In the Meet of Champions, Jackson also gold medaled in the 1600 mile, and he ran a 4:54, which is our fastest time that we've had at William Annan. Aiden Clark. Anthony Clarici. Charlie Corbett. James Corrigan. Dawson Deng. Aaron Dobkin, Kevin Foley, Leo Faust, Joey Gilligan. Joey was also a gold medal winner at the Meet of Champions. He got first place in the hurdles. Nolan Good, Alex Grant, Bhavan Gupta, Harry Hagerman, Unfortunately, Harry wasn't able to make the Meet of Champions, but he holds our record in the long jump. Harry, what was it? 17.7, 17 feet 7 inches as an 8th grader. That's fantastic. So he probably would have medaled if he was there. Andrew Hargy. Ryan Hargy. Harry Hess. Dante Izzo. Joaquin Izzo. Daniel Jagum. Andrew Kim. James Kisker. James was another gold medal winner at the Meet of Champions. He missed the record for the conference by 0.6 of a second? By 0.6 of a second. So it was fantastic. 55.4 is what he ran. Chris Kozakowski. Kyle Kozakowski. Arthur Lee. Andrew McCabe. Andrew was also a gold medal winner at the Meet of Champions, and his claim to fame is he ran an 800 in 2:15.9, which he promptly told me beats his brother, and so that was the most important thing for him. Daraj Namargurmalala. Sorry, Daraj. Chris Pazanza. S. Sage. Alex Sakeley. Alex was also a gold medal winner at the Meet of Champions in the 100 meters. He ran 12 seconds. Samuel Schwartzstein. Andrew Solomon. Nick Thomas. Jason Ulmer. Jonathan Way. Evan Wu. Eric Zhao. Those are all the names. However, we do want to say that the relay team, if you're in the 4x1 relay team, step up for a second, please. As I said before, these teams were undefeated throughout the season, and these guys all the way up through the Meet of Champions won every one of the relays that they ran. They had first place in the relay in 50 seconds. The Montgomery coach, we had weather here one day, a rolling thunder was coming in, so we had to call the meet, and he said, it doesn't matter because your relay team's going to beat us anyway, because they beat everybody, which is fantastic. So I'd ask one more time for the 8th graders just to step up for a second. 8th graders, step up. A lot of these guys I've worked with since 6th grade, cross country, first season, and then into track, and then into 7th grade, 8th grade, and they've come a long way. They've achieved a lot of their goals. Some of them promised me that they're going to do cross country next fall, but all of them promised me they'd come back to track, right, guys? Because they can win a lot of things. So congratulations.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Zarabera and Coach Karch, Coach Lang. I know these middle schoolers are excited for their dance, so 8th graders have a great time. Give them a second to huddle on out. Okay, so we're going to move on. At this point in time, we are going to present some of our high school level military awards. Unfortunately, Staff Sergeant Brandon Whitlock could not be with us this evening. We just found out, so I apologize. We're sorry that he cannot be with us tonight to present our awards in this area. However, we have a very well-prepared Ridge High School military liaison, Ms. Rebecca Murview, who is going to stand in. She's well-prepared to do so and present these awards on behalf of Staff Sergeant Whitlock. So, Ms. Murview, please.
Good evening. I would like to call Noor Kaur to the stage. Noor is this year's female recipient of the Distinguished Athlete Award. The Marine Corps has designed the Distinguished Athlete Award to be given to a student athlete with a never say die attitude, who epitomizes the adage, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Noor is a field hockey player who competes year-round as a midfielder. She has been selected to USA Field Hockey Futures, the national team pipeline, and plays club field hockey for Total Dutch. She is a 4-year Ridge varsity starter and 2-time captain. She's a 2017 Academic All-American, and this year she's also named First Team All-North Jersey, First Team All-Somerset County, and First Team All-Skyland Conference. Noor is being heavily recruited by Division I programs across the country. Her coaches describe her as poised under pressure and a smart decision maker on the field. Congratulations, Noor. I would like to call to the stage Michelle Zhu. Michelle is this year's recipient of the Semper Fidelis Award for Musical Excellence. The Marine Corps recognizes the achievements and sacrifices that musicians make, a tradition that dates back to when John Philip Sousa transformed the Marine Corps Band into the premier musical unit it is today. Michelle has played violin for 8 years and the piano for 5 years. She is also vocally trained in opera and musical theater. Michelle is co-concert master of Ridge's Orchestra and a member of Tri-M Honor Society. She was selected as first violinist for Honors Orchestra of America and New Jersey Youth Symphony, where she also serves as a student advisory board member. Michelle is a member of New Jersey's All-State High School Orchestra, Region 2 High School Orchestra, and Youth Orchestra. She's competed in the Young Musicians Program at Lincoln Center and won first place with New Jersey Youth Symphony at the Summa Cum Laude International Competition in Vienna, Austria. Michelle is a volunteer musician with American Youth Leadership of the United States and performs regularly at Fellowship Village. She exemplifies the highest level of dedication and enthusiasm to music. Congratulations, Michelle. And finally, I would like to call Arnav Gupta to the stage. Arnav is this year's recipient of the Scholastics Excellent Award. This award recognizes exemplary students who are role models to their peers in the classroom by reaching noteworthy academic achievements and demonstrating leadership excellence. Arnav stands at the top of his class while taking a rigorous schedule of 11 honors courses and 5 AP classes, and that's only through junior year. He loves politics and economics and hopes to major in economics in college. His dream job is to serve as chairperson of the Federal Reserve. Arnav was recently inducted into the National Honor Society and is a member of the Science National Honor Society. He competes in congressional debate with Ridge Forensics and has been appointed captain of this event next year. Arnav is a committed volunteer to many organizations in his community, including the Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital in Somerset, the Berners Township Library, and Hindi USA. He also founded the Ridge March of Dimes Club and Ridge Youth About Business Club, In his free time, Arnav plays violin for Ridge's Symphony Orchestra and is a forward on the soccer team. Arnav is a scholastic leader who seeks to promote a, quote, honest path of integrity among his classmates amidst, quote, the hyper-competitive labyrinth of Ridge High School. He encourages his peers to never cut corners or take the easy way out and scoping out paths to their future. Congratulations, Arnav. Thank you very much.
Okay. So Ms. Miraview was kind enough to let me know that their awards are forthcoming. So thank you for your patience. We'll get you those awards. Next, we're moving on to the Ridge High School mock trial team, and Michael Fackelman, our supervisor of fine and practical arts, will get us started.
Thank you very much, Mr. Markarian. It's my pleasure to speak to you this evening about our mock trial team. Mr. Kohut and Mrs. Falk, why don't you come on up? The Ridge mock trial team has had an unbelievable season. 3,000 students from 221 teams throughout the state argued in their respective county courtrooms the fate of Dana Martin, who was charged with strict liability for the death of his friend Zachary Simon. Mock trial teams are split into two groups. One group is tasked with defending their client, while the other group is tasked with prosecuting the defendant. Each group is made up of 2 attorneys and 3 witnesses. At the county level of the Vincent J. Abruzzi mock trial competition, Ridge faced many formidable opponents. In the first round of the tournament, the Ridge teams defeated the Hillsborough defense team and the Montgomery prosecution team, respectively. These victories allowed Ridge to move on to the semifinals, where they triumphed over Mount St. Mary's. In the finals of the county level of the competition, Ridge's prosecution faced Montgomery's defense and ultimately defeated them, awarding them the title of Somerset County Mock Trial Team Champions. After this win, Jeremy Fields, who won the Best Attorney Award, was offered an internship with Superior Court Judge Thomas C. Miller. I think that deserves a round of applause right there. At the regional level of the competition, the Ridge prosecution team beat the Middlesex County champion, West Windsor Plainsboro North. That same day, the defense team defeated the Monmouth County champion, Middletown South. By getting this far, Ridge ranks within the top 6 teams of 221 teams in the state. During the finals of the regional level of the competition, the Ridge prosecution team put up a determined fight against the Union County champion, Oratory Prep, but unfortunately did not win the title. But, you know, they're oratory. They speak a lot, so that kind of makes sense. So without further ado, a round of applause for our Somerset County champion, the Ridge mock trial team. Our students are benefited by their staff members, and I'm very pleased to have Steve Kohut and Heidi Fox here this evening, and they'll speak a little bit more and introduce their team members. And it should go without saying, it's not just them. They have a wonderful support system of attorneys that open up their knowledge and their desire to see these students succeed, and I thank you on behalf of the district for your attention to our students. Steve, Heidi, I'll give it to you.
Both Heidi and I are very proud of the team. We're a young club. This is our 5th year, and we've accomplished a lot in a short period of time. The people in front of you worked very hard in the morning, at night, over the weekends, practiced at the municipal court here in town in front of Judge Bogosian, and it was a wonderful experience. And the best thing I can say is you've all seen Law and Order. That's TV stuff. Sons and daughters here are doing the real stuff in front of real judges. So I think that's an extraordinary accomplishment in a short time, and we expect a lot more as we continue next year and compete again for Somerset County Mock Trial Championship, and hopefully beyond that. Oh, we also want to recognize we have Mark Solomon. He is one of our parent attorney coaches. have several attorneys. Ed Zahn is an attorney who's appointed to our team and comes to help us practice. And Mark Solomon and Scott Mitzner are parent attorneys. And they come from their busy schedules after school, and they come to the courthouse, and they open up their home over the weekend to help prep our kids for the mock trial competition. So we really thank you for all the volunteering and the time that you put into the club. So we'd like to honor each one of you. So we do have a plaque. This is the county plaque that rotates through from school to school, and we noted on there, and then we have one that will retain in the school. So what we'd like to do is hand out, you want to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to go down in alphabetical order. Some of the members didn't make it tonight. Richa Amin is not here. Jeremy Fields. Best attorney in the county at the championship. Thank you. Kira Fulham. Kira was elected president for next year.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Fackelman and Mr. Kohut, Ms. Fox. Thank you for joining us tonight, and congratulations to our Ridge High mock trial team, and special thanks to those parents that are volunteering their time to help our kids. We really appreciate that. And you can see why I'm so embarrassed from the beginning presentation when you look at the amazing work that these kids do. It really is all about them and our staff and our parents, the way we work together for the kids. So congratulations, and we're going to continue with more of the same great work from staff and students. We're going to hear a little bit now from our Project Citizen group that came tonight from Ridge High School to talk to us about their presentation, and I'd like to have Susan Ward, their teacher, get things started for them. So thank you for your attention.
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing us to come present to you tonight. We're so excited to share what we've been working on for over 6 months with all of you. Each year, the Honors Gov and Econ students take part in Project Citizen, which is a curricular program sponsored by the Center for Civic Education. It's designed to promote participation with government at all levels. The program helps participants to learn how to monitor and influence public policy, and fosters democratic values and principles, tolerance, and feelings of political efficacy. For the past 2 years, Ridge students have been chosen to represent New Jersey at the National Showcase for Project Citizen, and our work has been deemed exceptional. We're supposed to hear tomorrow how we did this year. So fingers crossed, everybody, okay? Each year, it's my privilege to watch my students investigate issues that matter to them and to begin to recognize that they can be part of the solution. Our winning group's focus this year is on student mental health, which is a topic that many groups have asked to address over the years. Our topics range the gamut from snow day policy to veterans employment. So we have a wide range of interests, and the students investigate and try and come up with solutions to solve these problems. Regardless of the topic, though, they are very focused on their research and their analysis and figuring out how you use government to improve problems. And throughout the year, they were supported by our community. Their peers and parents answered surveys. Teachers and administrators made time to answer interview questions. Members of the board and the town council met with them to help them better understand the role that government plays in solving problems. So thank you all so much. We really do appreciate it, the team effort. Citizenship is not a spectator sport, and I love that Project Citizen prepares my students to become active citizens outside of the classroom by fueling their commitment to get involved and providing them with the skills to do so. Thank you so much for helping make all this possible. And now I'm going to turn it over to them. Ladies.
Hi everyone, my name is Cassidy Staples, and today my classmates and I have the opportunity to share this year's Project Citizen, which all of us are very proud to present. So you might ask, what is Project Citizen? Project Citizen is a nationwide competition in which groups of students come together based on a topic they are passionate about to create solutions on how to solve the issue and an action plan. As Ridge students in Honors Gov and Econ, the 8 members of our group were able to pick a topic we are passionate about. We chose student mental health. The steps we had to take were as follows. Students first must research the problem, conduct surveys and interviews, and reach out to various policymakers in order to gain their insight. After gathering the research, students create a website to advocate for their problem and explain their solutions. To decide which group project gets the opportunity to continue, websites are first voted on in each Honors Gov and Econ class, then a panel of teachers vote on the best website from the 3 classes. The website then gets revised and sent off to Rutgers University for the state competition, which is currently there now. If it wins the state competition, then it goes to the national competition. So here's the information regarding our Project Citizen mental wellness.
We chose this topic because it is the reality we see every day in our high school, affecting many of our classmates. 1 in 5 children ages 13 to 18 are diagnosed with a serious mental health disorder, and evidence we have gathered from our own high school support this statistic. As the amount of adolescents suffering with mental illness increases exponentially, the awareness, acceptance, and resources for and of this issue remains insufficiently stagnant. In addition, 60% of students suffering at Ridge High School reported that they do not feel comfortable going to their guidance counselor for help. Kids feel if they do not take all advanced placement classes, they'll fall behind their classmates and won't get into college. We had approximately 100 students respond to our survey, thus allowing one to see that this is a real issue in our school. Number of visits to their counselor per student varied over the grades, but is very low overall. When students visit, anxiety is the number 1 issue.
After an in-depth analysis of this issue within our community, we understood that we must present a variety of different solutions to tackle its many layers. They range from moderate to extreme in implementation. To begin, we began by proposing an excused mental health day for all students. We believed that this would serve as a way for students to take time and relax on a stressful day within their busy schedules. However, we eventually did not choose this solution as it can be seen as avoidance for issues that arise in later years in adolescence. We decided that while we were creating this solution, it would run just like a college visit excused absence. Second, we then proposed a renovation of the guidance department. As you can see, when you walk in, students are bombarded by college pennants, which can be seen as daunting. Similarly, students may see this as the guidance department is only seen as a resource for academic training and not an emotional resource. Our third idea was to create a decompression lounge within Ridge High School. This room would serve as a safe space for students to relax. Other schools, such as Chatham High School, have successfully implemented this. We discussed with them on their policy as well to gain insight. Finally, we proposed a curricular revision of the freshman health curriculum. In this, we would include an extra marking period of mental wellness education that surpasses merely the state standards we currently abide by. We would also like to enforce that students cannot miss this mandatory class for music lessons and lab, as it disrupts education that is vital to our students.
Okay, so the final solution that we thought of was to combine the mental health curriculum, the decompression room, and the warmer guidance department. So to start off with the revised freshman mental health curriculum, the main goal of this new course would be to raise awareness of mental health disorders and reduce the stigma surrounding mental health. It would be more comprehensive and hands-on for students. And of course, we would meet the state requirement. However, we feel it is very important that we provide the freshman students, once they enter high school, with the skills they need to recognize mental health disorders and accept them. And then our next part of our solution is the decompression room. So we would create a room in the school that has fun activities for students to play with, such as bracelet making, painting, Play-Doh, etc. In order for children to go to de-stress and get a break from their schoolwork during the day. We would play music and connect with other clubs such as the Therapy Dog Club, the Wellness Club, and the Meditation Club. So we could have activities such as meditation or yoga or Therapy Dog Thursdays for students to participate in, possibly once a week. And we are currently interested in doing the pilot program in the tutorial center. It's off of the cafeteria. So we can see if we need more space or how many students show interest or what works and what doesn't work so we can improve it for the future. And then lastly, remaking and decorating the guidance department. So we would first take out the college banners that students oftentimes feel very overwhelmed with when they go to see their guidance counselor. This would reduce student stress and it would make the students feel a lot more welcomed. It would also help in fostering better bonds with counselors through the more welcoming atmosphere, and they'd feel more comfortable going there, so they'd go more often, and therefore they would foster better bonds. Counselors would also often visit the decompression rooms to lead mindfulness exercises or just to talk to their students and check in and be involved there too. And we would also make it very clear that the resources that are available to students in school, such as the student assistant counselors, because many students aren't familiar with these resources, and they are very great resources that we feel as though students should go and see, because they can definitely play a part in assisting them in their mental health.
The first step in our action plan was to influence and educate the community. We created a petition on change.org that currently has close to 300 supporters. We also made posters to put around the school and an Instagram where we post information about our project, our team, and stats about our topic. Our second step was to reach out to policymakers and gain support. We talked to Representative Leonard Lance, attended a Board of Ed meeting, met with Mr. Shello, the director of the Health and PE programs, and Mr. Kraus to explain our project, ideas, and talk with him about the steps we must take to make our ideas become a reality. One of the things that we have done thus far to begin implementing our proposed solution is meeting with Mr. Kraus to discuss the decompression room. We hope to use the tutorial center as a pilot program at the beginning of next year. We also met with Mr. Shello and shared our ideas about the health curriculum. He told us that the health teachers are actually revising the curriculum this summer, but he plans to keep us informed and wants to support our ideas in any way that he can.
The next question is, what can the Board of Education do to help us? Through presenting our Project Citizen, we hope that the board can approve our changes to create a new curriculum, to recreate the guidance department, and to make a decompression room at Ridge. The board can approve a curricular revision in order for the freshman health curriculum to be written or for new ideas to be considered. With a new curriculum, the teachers need to become more familiar with it by participating in trainings and different sessions so they are prepared for the upcoming school year. This would be a significant change, but a very valuable one, since these new lessons would be taught to the freshmen at the beginning of their high school career and will have a huge effect on them Also, by not allowing the students to miss class or lab or music lessons, this will allow the students to stay more connected with their learning on this very important subject. After completing Project Citizen and taking some time to reflect on it, we can all agree that we learned a lot of valuable lessons and skills that will help us all in the future. First, we learned that making policy is very difficult. It requires a lot of time, money, support from policymakers, and a lot of work. We believe that this project served as an opportunity for us to make our voice heard and to make a change involving something that affects our daily lives and something we are really passionate about. We all wish that we could have done this when we were younger so that we could see the changes being enacted. However, we are happy to hopefully make a difference in upcoming high school careers at Ridge. Lastly, we learned responsibility, organizational skills, and communication skills through organizing interviews with teachers and meeting with different policymakers.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for proving my point about how awesome our students are. That was a great job. Really nice job. Thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Ward. You obviously did a wonderful job with them. So you'll let us know about how that little competition works out, right? Yeah, cool. I'll make sure we pass that along. So congratulations, girls. I think if you stick around, we might have something that would be a bit of good news for you. But if you have things you got to do, I totally understand. I wouldn't want to keep you here too late. Okay, so we actually are continuing on. We have one more special presentation this evening. That's going to be led by our Director of Curriculum, Dr. Heineman, as well as our elementary school principals who are here to join us tonight to follow up our student work with some of our staff work. So if you could stick around, we're going to take a minute here to transition. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. The crowd has thinned out quite a bit since we started. So tonight, we want to talk a little bit about something you may have been hearing whispers and rumors about. You might have been hearing the terms platooning and the terms departmentalization floating around town. And our goal tonight is really to demystify those two terms, as well as give our building staff and administration some time to talk about their specific plans in grade 5 next year at our elementary schools in Burns Township. So first, what is departmentalization? I'm going to paint the broad strokes for everybody, then introduce the elementary staff. So departmentalization is something you're probably very familiar with. If you think of the way that we handle our school scheduling for students and staff in grades 6 through 12, those are departments. In fact, our supervisors have titles based upon departments, right? You have science, you have mathematics, you have ELA, and so forth. That is a very traditional setup in secondary schools, and it is sometimes a scheduling setup that you see in upper elementary schools. So it has teachers broken into these categories. So what you see at the high school is very specific, right? Teachers are science teachers or they're mathematics teachers. Well, that is completely departmentalized. And then at the current elementary level, you see classrooms that have a single classroom teacher that are almost not departmentalized at all, aside from key things like music and art, right, where we have specialized teachers. So in a departmentalized setting, that's what you have. Students in this particular setting move around, right? So if you think about middle school or high school, you go to a classroom, and then after the bell rings, you go to your next class. You will have some of the same students in that class, but you also may have different students in the class, right? It kind of reshuffles after every period, right? That's a departmentalized setting. So every period that switches, the kids kind of mix around and go to the next class. So that's probably familiar. This term might be a little scarier. It has a little bit of a ring of military efficiency to it, when we say platooning. And we were kind of using the terms interchangeably and talking about, what is this platooning thing and what are we talking about here? And the only real difference between what platooning is and what departmentalization is that in platooning, the students move together as a group. So if you think of that military thing, right, the platoon marches together to the next class. So if I'm leaving my math class and I look around me, when I go to my next class, all those same students will be with me. Okay, that's a platooning model. You still have staff that are specialists in ELA or mathematics or science, so on and so forth. But instead of reshuffling, they stay with the group as a cohort. So that's really the only difference. When you hear those two terms, that's really what you're seeing. So if you are familiar with 612, you already have a really good handle on what it looks like for students. So what are the benefits? Obviously we know we have a 612 program that uses departmentalization. And we think if we look at 5th grade and some different models that we might be able to use aside from that single classroom model, that homeroom model, we could have departmentalized models in 5th grade that will allow students to transition more easily to William Allen Middle School. I will tell you, I did serve for 1 year as an assistant principal at William Allen Middle School, and I've witnessed firsthand the traumatic transition that students get, in some ways serious, and in some ways, jokingly, as they struggle with their lockers and, are brought to tears by the locker, defeated by the locker combination. It's a big building, there's lots of kids, and they're switching every single class. So they go from a very, simplistic setup to a very drastic setup with really no intermediary stages. Another benefit of departmentalization or platooning is that staff members have a chance to really follow their passion and to learn more details of a specific subject area. If you could imagine for a second, those of you who maybe have some specialization in your own lives, if I said, tomorrow I need you to give a speech about molecular biology, about the causes of World War II, about human sexuality, then after that in the afternoon you have to do one in Spanish, and soon you start going, whoa, how am I supposed to know all these things, right? It's so broad of a content area, right? So that's why we don't do that obviously in 612. So part of what we could do in a departmentalized setting is have teachers really specialize, not only know more about the content, but follow content they really have a passion about. You do have teachers who love teaching writing or who love mathematics. So that would be a benefit of this model. Students will have the ability to build relationships with a variety of teachers, right? Instead of only knowing that one teacher, they'll see multiple teachers throughout the day, much like they'll see at the middle school. Teachers have a greater ability to differentiate. So instead of trying to split your day, getting ready for tomorrow's lesson, I gotta get ready for my writing lesson, and my reading lesson, and my math lesson, and social studies lesson, and my health lesson all tomorrow. Well, instead of that, you might have to get ready for 2 of those things, or 1 of those things in a departmentalized model. Students also have the ability to move throughout the day. So if you can imagine you have antsy 5th graders who want to get up and do something, and you're telling them no, for the next 3 hours you're pretty much going to be in this one room. And last but not least is that staff members who can delve more deeply into the content area and the methodologies behind teaching certain content can better challenge the students at the right level for them by differentiating in those areas. So is it something new? It's a little scary when you first hear it. Is it something new? No, it's not something new. It's actually, if you look at the literature, it's been around for about 100 years in the education literature, the concept of departmentalization and platooning since about the 1930s. So these are not things that are new. They've been around for quite some time. And in fact, when we started having conversations about this early on, some people started going, oh yeah, I did that when I was in school. And I myself had Mr. Hansen and Mr. Gentili in 5th grade. One was science, one was social studies, and I remember switching for those when I was a 5th grade student. So it has been around for quite some time as a model. We did some due diligence on our own part, aside from obviously talking to our colleagues throughout New Jersey. We did 2 site visits that were recommended to us. One was Mine Hill Elementary School, and one was Hopewell Valley, who had slightly different models of departmentalizing to look at how those schools do it. what they thought was successful, what struggles and challenges they had, and what they would do different next time if they had to do it, and that was very successful. Staff got to go on those visits as well. And we also asked around some other districts that are nearby that do it: Millburn, North Plainfield, Montgomery, Pequannock, West Milford. There's quite a few that do it. Mount Olive, where I live, does it as well. There's quite a few districts that use this model in the upper elementary grades. So I will end my part by saying that's really what we're looking at, so keep focused on. We're talking about fifth graders. We're talking about those transition students. We're not talking about doing this with the little guys. But without further ado, I will hand it over to Mr. Ciampola, who is our principal at Cedar Hill Elementary School.
I asked Mrs. Jennifer Purdick, who is one of our fifth grade teachers, to join me. I'm really proud of my fifth grade faculty, first of all because they just work so amazingly hard and together for the benefit of our students, and secondly because they were really the push for this whole program. They've been coming to me, and I think before me they were coming to Joe about it as well. So we're glad to see it come to fruition and want to share with you our exciting plan at Cedar Hill. So we have 5 teachers on our fifth grade team at Cedar Hill. Okay. We have 5 teachers on our team. In our plan, and I'm going to steal this from my assistant principal who couldn't be here tonight. She called it the Goldilocks, the Goldilocks and the Three Bears plan. It's not too elementary, it's not too secondary, it's just right, it's in the middle. So our teachers, they actually looked at where their passions lay, and they chose subjects that they were interested in teaching and felt that they had a background already. Of course, all of our teachers are generalists, and so they teach all the subjects, but this really gave them an opportunity to focus on specific areas. And so you could see Mrs. Chiquino, and this kind of reminds me of the extra section teachers at William Ann, and for those of you who have been there or worked there or had kids there, the three of one subject and 2 of other, as our teams got bigger there, bigger than going to a 4th team. So each teacher has 3 and 2 of another subject, and you can see what they are up there. This will enable the teachers to go into more depth of preparation, having only 2 subjects to prepare for. Again, I mentioned the teachers chose subjects based on their passion and their strengths. What I like also is each teacher has a curricular partner with whom she is working in the subject area. Our instructional support teachers will plan with the same teacher, same reading teacher, and the same writing teacher when they're matched up. So it works out better for planning for those folks. And then our math support teacher will only work with 2 teachers. And you can see that up there that Mrs. Chiquino has the 2 math, Mrs. Franco has the 3 math. So our math support teacher, we're anticipating, I think, 3 sections next year. They would be working just with that, or that person would be working just with those 2 teachers. So it works out nicely in terms of that plan. Our schedule, so this is just a sample schedule that you're seeing here. So this would be Miss Ludwig, if a student were in her homeroom, they would come in the morning, just like normal. They would be with Miss Ludwig from 8:30 to 9:20, which we often refer to as our 0 period. This schedule that we developed it based on our special schedule. So the timing that you see up there is a timing schedule we already use. We've been using it, and actually each period, 1, 2, the special period for 5th grade, and then actually where their lunch recess is, period 4 and 5, those are actually where all our grade levels have their specials already. So it's a transition time that is already in place in our building. The students would be switching at those times, same time the specials would. Mrs. Euler and I, now our 5th grades are all in one wing, so Mrs. Euler and I are developing a traffic flow map for each period just to make sure that we are maximizing efficiency and safety and minimizing loss and gridlock, time lost and gridlock. We're not anticipating many problems here. Literally, they're going to get up, here it is, Joanne, and they're going to walk across the hall. into the other classroom. Okay, so I'm not worried about it too much. We have one special on that hallway, and that's computers. And again, with our traffic flow map, we will make sure that none of the other students have any difficulty getting to there. Our plan, so again, our students, if you notice, students begin and end the day with the same teacher. So they're with Miss Ludwig in this example at the beginning of the day, period 1 they're with her, and then if you look at period 5 at the bottom, they come back to her as well. So always, and that's all 5 teachers, begin and end the day with the same teacher. And then we're limiting the number of teachers they go to in this academic setting to 3 or 4. In this case, the students would only be going to 3 teachers, Miss Ludwig, Miss Flaherty for science and health, and Miss Chiquino for math and reading. So again, it's kind of that Goldilocks idea. It's not completely middle school, it's not elementary anymore exactly, it's just right, it's just in the middle for us. And this is what we felt at Cedar Hill would work best for our students. These choices are designed to preserve the developmental closeness of the students with their traditional all-day elementary teacher. The reading and the writing are still designed as an ELA block. In every student's schedule, reading will be followed by writing in the academic schedule. And you can see that up there, periods 4 and 5. Even though they're going to different teachers, they are going to be reading and then writing right after that. And that's important because we do have students that are in instructional support or literature support. And the nice thing about this is the instructional support teacher, most of our students who have that, they have both reading and writing support. They will be in the reading class and then they will go with the students right across the hall to the writing class. And again, we're looking, I think, at better continuity for both reading and writing instruction. I think sometimes that kind of didn't always happen as well because one day you're focusing on a reading project and then putting off writing for another day. This will help with continuity with that. The other thing we felt is it will give a more regular opportunity to teach what we call content. That's science, health, social studies, and Latin due to the allocation of time. Informational reading and writing will be taught also in science and social studies due to that redistribution of time. And the morning time, the homeroom time, what we call period 0, our teachers also call project morning. It's an opportunity to work with the homeroom teacher on STEM projects, extra help. Again, because our teachers are already teaching these subjects and have a background in them, even though a student might be working on something in another class for writing, they can get help from their homeroom teacher because, again, these teachers are all coordinated in terms of how they're planning and what assignments the kids are getting. Some other considerations we had at Cedar Hill, back to school night, our 5th grade teachers are going to present together as a group. Grades, they'll be broken out separately on the report cards. Right now, social studies and science appear clumped together with homeroom, so we'll break that out. Conferences, we're working on a schedule to make sure that parents can meet with all the teachers. Our special ed and support schedules, I talked about support a little bit. Special ed will be the same thing. If a student has instructional support, if a student has ICS, ELA, then that special ed teacher will simply travel across the hall with them, work with both those teachers for that block. Same thing with math as well. Snack will be eaten in the room before the kids go to specials in the morning. We're going to minimize supplies that have to be carried. We envision our kids basically carrying a binder and maybe their pencil case, and we're going to house their materials for that subject in the room where they have that class. So math books will be in the math room, social studies books will be in the social studies room. And I think that's it. That's it for Cedar Hill. So that's our plan in a nutshell. We're very proud of it. We've worked hard on it, and I think it's going to really be a benefit. I was a teacher 9 years in 6th grade at William Ann, and so I was on the other end of this where I received the students, and often we would talk about the need for a little more transition. So it is not, as Brian mentioned, traumatic for the kids. And I think this will really, we talk about the students who were presenting before, mental health, and trying to provide the students with more of a smooth transition. I think this is going to be key for that, for them. Okay, thank you.
evening. My name is Jim Oliver, principal of Liberty Corner School. I'll try not to share what Mr. Ciampola shared. We've been working together as a district now, as administrators, but also really the fifth grade teachers have been really spearheading this. They've been talking about this for several years now, and I know that everybody across the district is very excited. We've all had parent presentations. Last week we had 2 each. We had a lot of positive feedback, some really good suggestions, but we met with a lot of positivity from our parents. Even just out of the meetings, I've seen some of the parents who've come up to me and have spoken to me or to the teachers, and they really seem positive about it. We're also meeting with our 4th grade students tomorrow to have a discussion about what this is going to look like. I can tell you I've had a conversation already with a group of 4th graders, and they just feel that there's a change now in 5th grade. It's a sense of maturity for them. That 5th grade is different than from what 4th grade was. So we are also very, very excited. I know the teachers are as well. Our plan for 5th grade next year is to have the students switch for classes from the science and health curriculum, and then also the social studies curriculum. As Mr. Ciampola said, those we consider our content areas. At LCS, we only have 4 sections of 5th grade, so there is a little bit of a different planning model that we have to set up. We have been talking, I actually came from East Brunswick where they did a team teaching approach where children work with 2 teachers. So we are looking down the road if this is successful, of expanding it to either have include more curriculum where the children will be changing for. But for next year, we're going to be following the team approach. The children will be working with 2 teachers. One teacher will be providing the social studies curriculum, and the other teacher will be providing the science/health curriculum as well. With me here today, Mrs. Legvari. She's going to be teaching social studies, and Mrs. Mastriani is going to be teaching our science and health curriculum. So this would be one team that we have that would be working with half of the 5th grade population. And then we also have Mrs. Quinfoy and Ms. Rhaegar, who would be our second team. Ms. Quinfoy, as you can see, will be teaching social studies, and Ms. Rhaegar would be charged with teaching the science and health curriculums. I do have also a snapshot of what this daily schedule would be looking like. We have been working on this for quite some time now. I'm going to bring up or invite up Mrs. Legbar and Mrs. Mastriani to give a little bit more in-depth information about what the day will look like. But this is roughly what a snapshot of the 5th graders' day will be like at Liberty Corner School next year.
Hello everyone, I'm Amy Legvari and this is Sarah Mastriani. We're one of the teams that are going to be working together next year at Liberty Corner. As Dr. Oliver said, I will be delivering the social studies curriculum, and Mrs. Mastriani will be doing the science health curriculum. So in front of you, you have one of our schedules, and as you can see, very similar to Cedar Hill, we are starting the morning off with homeroom, and we are ending with our homeroom teacher. This is going to work for a variety of purposes. Not only will the students be coming in and putting their backpacks in their homeroom, but that way they could end as well. When you go down to the bottom of the schedule, for that 1:50 to 2:40 time, that's where we will be doing the switching. Mrs. Mastriani is going to be talking about how that's going to work.
So you can see that we're going to do an A and B schedule for our switching. We're going to do, if I'm the A schedule, I would start the week doing 3 days of science and health, and then 2 days my students would go to Mrs. Legvari for the social studies. And then the following week, Mrs. Legvari's class would have the 3 days of science and 2 days of social studies. So we're going to switch back and forth, especially because science labs do take a little bit of longer time to do, and the preparation. So doing an alternating schedule with 3 days doing science, and then the following week doing the 3 days of social studies for my class, and then doing 2 and 2 will work out very well. Also, Ms. Legvari and my classroom are very close together, so with a traffic pattern of switching, our 2 classrooms are right next to each other, and then for Mrs. Rhaegar and Mrs. Quinfoy, their classrooms are right across the hallway from each other, so our changing classes will not affect the rest of the building. And that's our schedule.
Just one more thing to note out, as Mr. Ciampola said, this does not have an impact on the actual time that the children are being taught in the specific curriculum. We were very sensitive to that to make sure that we could make this work without having an impact, a negative impact on what the children are receiving on a daily basis. Okay? I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Costa.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I thought you said Mike. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm here this evening with 4 of my 5 fifth grade teachers. I have Mr. Denny isn't with us this evening. I have Ms. Corcoran, who will be teaching reading and word study. I have Mrs. Madden, my left, who will be teaching math. Mrs. Campos, our science and health. And Ms. Lear, who will be teaching social studies and Latin. All 5 of these teachers, Mr. Denny included, were very excited and passionate about having the opportunity to do platooning. They have seen through the years, with the curriculum getting much more dense and time always being at a premium, and wanting to be experts in that specific subject, that they felt that platooning was really an optimal thing to do for our children. And so they all came to me and they said, we'd like to do platooning, and we've been talking about it for really several years now. And each of them has a strong background in the subject area that they would like to be focusing on. And I'm going to turn it over to them so they could talk a little bit about their background and their passion. So, Ms. Corcoran?
Hi, everybody. So in the platooning model, like Dr. Costa said, we can really zero in and focus on one subject and do it really well. So, you know, I'm an elementary teacher. I love teaching all subjects, but I was also an English major before I went back for my master's in teaching. And so reading and writing and all those things are just my passion. Like, I love teaching elementary because I love watching them grow in these areas. Like, it's just an area where you can see where they start and where they end, and it's just a huge difference in who they become as readers and writers. As some of you know, I used to teach first grade before I taught fourth grade, and just watching students learn to read and become thinkers and just independent learners through these subjects is just who I am as a teacher. So if I actually asked Dr. Costa when I heard about platooning if I could move up to 5th grade and be a part of something so exciting.
And Ms. Campos will be talking about science.
Don't worry, I won't teach you any of it. I actually was a natural science major and a math major in college. And to be honest with you, I would be so thrilled and enthusiastic to be able to focus on any of the subjects that we teach. It really doesn't have to be science. I prefer science. Mr. Denis and I kind of fought over science. But it really is more that I want to be able to do my absolute best with a subject with your kids. And what Dr. Costa mentioned about the dense curriculum, if you understand how many different elements there are to every subject that we're teaching, we have data, we have assessments, we have standards, there's a lot. And it really is something that the teachers are so thrilled to be able to focus on the best lessons, the absolute perfect instruction that we can provide. And that doesn't mean that we're going to insulate ourselves from the other teachers. Mrs. Madden and I have already talked about how we can pull math and science together in a very natural environment for the kids that's just so doable in this model. Even the non-fictional informational writing that Mr. Denis and that Mrs. Corcoran will be doing will exist in the science classroom. You have to do that reading and writing to be able to truly understand the content that we're going to deliver, and it makes it just a natural flow. So it doesn't have to be science for me. Yes, I love science, but if I can just wholeheartedly deliver to your child the absolute best, most effective, efficient, just what we need to do, that is where our enthusiasm comes from. And I will bet if you asked any of the teachers that are here that that's exactly how they feel as well. We are experts in all of them. but give us the chance to truly deliver that expertise to your child.
And Ms. Madden? Mrs. Madden, hi. I'll be teaching math. And I agree with everybody that's spoken already. I think to be a teacher, you have to love all the subjects, especially if you're teaching elementary. For me, it was actually hard to choose because I do love every subject, but my inspiration for choosing math, besides my background in finance and statistics, I also wanted to, I thought back to when I was in middle school, and there was one teacher I had, very sixth grade, very first year in not William Ann, it should have been William Ann, I was in the city. But my very first year at junior high school, I actually had one teacher that just made all the math before just make sense. And I was lucky enough to have him a second year. And you think of all the teachers you've had in your life, when you think of that one that just made the whole world come alive for you. Math is everywhere. And so for me, I would like the opportunity to do for my students what this teacher did for me. And just see how I can bring the everyday math around us into perspective for them so that they don't dread it. Some kids love it and some kids don't right now. The biggest thing for me this year, I've been working on the math workshop for the last couple of years, and when you hear that child who always was so nervous when they heard it was math period or just didn't like math, when you hear them go in the middle of class, I love math now. It makes your day, it makes your year, it makes you really thrilled that you have the opportunity to teach kids.
And Ms. Lear, teaching social studies and math. Yes, I got stuck with it. No, I'm joking. I love social studies and have had a passion and traveled to reenactments and things along that line to make it that more exciting and involved with the kids. I was very excited to get this information to find out that everybody else wanted something, and I'm like, I want social studies. But I love social studies, and I love the fact that I will be working with the language arts, with the math, to incorporate everything into the social studies curriculum, because you need to know the statistics and charts and graphs, and you need to know the language arts and the comprehension and the basics behind that in order to bring forward the information and the learning for the students. Social studies affects us every day, and I want the kids to love it as much as I do. Thanks.
And during zero period, our zero period, and I'll show you a sample schedule, is at the end of the day. And that is the time when the teachers, twice a week, will be getting together, just like they do at the middle school, to be talking about the children. Because that was one of the concerns. Is my child going to fall through the cracks? Well, no, because just like in the middle school, they get together and they talk about the children. So that if one teacher is seeing something, a child is maybe a little off, feeling a little sad, another teacher may say, yeah, he's been struggling or she's been struggling in my classroom as well. So twice a week during our zero period, they will be having that team time. And then you ask, well, what are the children going to be doing? Well, just like they do now when I have zero period, I assign the special area teachers to cover. And they go into the classroom because they have no classes at that time themselves because we're done with all the specials. So I'm able to assign them. And then the other 3 days, the children will have time for, we're calling it workshop time. In essence, it's going to be if a child needs to make up a test, if a child's having trouble in a certain subject, maybe math, not understanding it, they can go see Mrs. Madden to get some extra help in math. Because all 5 teachers have taught the entire curriculum, the child doesn't necessarily have to leave their zero period class to get the help because the teachers know the curriculum. But they can if they need to, and we can, there'll be a schedule for that. So this is what a sample schedule looks like. From 8:30 to 8:50, the child will go to their homeroom. And in this sample, Johnny's going to go see Mrs. Madden. And then from 8:50 to 9:40 is when there'll be specials, art, music, library. Then Johnny will come back to Mrs. Madden. All the children will go back to their homeroom, period, and they will have whatever it is. It might be their science class, social studies. This child will then move on to science and health, then social studies with Latin, Miss Lear, lunch. Our lunch periods are not changing as a result of this platooning. And before we talked when Dr. Heinemann said about platooning, the children are moving together. So when Johnny's in his homeroom, Johnny's going to be with the same group of students throughout the day. Reading and word study, writing, Mr. Denis, and then from 2:40 to 3:10, the children will go back to their homeroom. This child will go back to Mrs. Madden, and we'll have our WIN at the end of the day. The younger grades have WIN in the morning, but if a child needs it because of an INRS plan, that child can get the help then. And then on Fridays is when we'll have our clubs, our monthly assemblies, and our buddy classes. So that is what it's going to look like at Oak Street School.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joanne Hosany, and I'm the principal of Mount Prospect School. And with me, I have my assistant principal, Mr. Pepitone, and Mrs. Fain is one of our current 5th grade teachers, and Ms. Linstra is our gifted and talented teacher who works with all grades 3, 4, 5, and everybody else that wants anything, they call it. So I'm not going to spend time going through everything because pretty much all the assistant principals, that's one of the great things about going last, they've pretty much said everything that we need to say, and all the principals have talked a wonderful job about the passion and the excitement. But the journey has been going on all year long, and I can tell you the main excitement was when the teachers went to go visit the other schools, and the passion that came back and said, we need to do something. We need to do something similar. We need to be able to do this, not only just for the students' benefit, but also for the teachers' benefit. Just like you've heard from the other principals, the teachers are just so excited to be able to dive deeper into certain subjects and to be able to learn and just develop all of those lesson plans and really go into differentiation and really be able to enrich, but then also support the struggling learners in a better way, in a stronger way. So we're doing a little bit different, just like we're very similar, but we have different tweaks based upon our schedule, based upon how many teachers. We have 5 sections of 5th grade, and what we're going to be doing, and we'll show you a sample schedule in a minute, but all of our teachers will be teaching homeroom, and all of our teachers will be teaching their own language arts, so reading and writing. So the students will be with that homeroom cluster teacher for their homeroom and their reading and writing. And then we'll be switching for our math and our content, and the content will consist of science, social studies, health, and Latin. And so you see Mr. Vreeland, Mr. Sheckman, and Mrs. Fain will be our math teachers, and for content will be Mr. Vreeland, Mrs. Hughes, and Mrs. Lambert. Because we have 5 sections, Mr. Vreeland will actually be teaching most of the subject areas. So what we'll be doing is, when we're looking at the schedule, and I'll have Mr. Pepitone come up and explain it in detail. But Mr. Simpola especially, he talked a lot about platooning and even modeled how they were going to be moving from class to class. We won't be platooning. They'll be with their teacher for reading and writing and their homeroom. But then when it's time to change, we're going to have flexible grouping. So there's going to be a cadre of students that are mixed up, and it's going to be based upon, it's going to be a variance of high, medium, and low learners. So it's going to be that heterogeneous grouping, just like they would be placed normally for K-5 students. We tried to have a mix of different ability levels throughout the classrooms. So that will be done over the summer with the administrators. We'll be using different assessments. We'll be using the MAP testing and a lot of the different anecdotal records that the teachers will be giving us. So what's nice about that is that we talk about we're very committed with the SEL learning. We're a part of the School Culture and Climate Initiative, and we're talking a lot about relationships and connections. And just like the other principals had mentioned, the teachers are going to get to know more of the students, but the students are going to get to know a lot more of their grade level, and they're going to build those relationships. And in the end, it's really going to help a lot of those interpersonal skills that we're really trying to foster. We happened to meet with the 4th grade students today. We met for a very short time, maybe about 15 minutes at 9 o'clock, and it was the entire team of 5th grade teachers, myself, and Mr. Pepitone. And I have to tell you, the kids came up with such amazing questions. They even surpassed the parents, because we did have our parent presentations last Wednesday. But the questions that they were asking, talk about the logistics, and some things, again, that we were like, okay, we had a plan, but they're like, what about this? So they were worried about, what are they going to be carrying? How are they going to be carrying it? Well, get this, though, I was a little crazy about this. where are we going to be taking our park testing? Are we going to be taking it with our math teacher, or should we be taking it with our content teacher? When are we going to have SNAP? So it ranged the gamut. So it was really very interesting to see. And then our 4th grade team, and it was wonderful, from 11:30 to 12:30 today, they split up, and each of the 4th grade teachers then took a content area. They mixed up the kids. There was no rhyme or reason. They just kind of divided them up. And then the kids got to actually switch for an hour. And then we actually had them do a reflection. What did you love about this? What are some things, what are more questions you have? And what are you, if you could ask questions to the administrators, or what are you nervous about? Anything that you wanted to tell us, just write it down. It was just going to be for their eyes and our eyes. No one else is going to know. So that way, in case they had a fear of maybe having 2 or 3 different teachers, or maybe they weren't sure what's going to happen if I'm going to gym, where do I go? How do I walk? Which way? The questions were amazing, and it really put our mindset into that little 10-year-old mindset. So it was really powerful today. Wouldn't you say that? And even with the parents, we had a lot of the parents, especially those who had the older siblings, who have been through William Mannon. They were talking about, well, you know, William Mannon has a buddy when they're doing this, or when they're moving, they do this. So we're like, those are great ideas that we can incorporate. So it's just going to be kind of like, you know how we all talk about speaking the same language when we move from all of our elementary schools to William Mannon in many different facets. We're going to be doing several things that William Mannon is already going to be doing to help ease that transition. And we are just so very excited. So Mr. Pepitone, if you want to talk a little bit about what our sample schedule is going to look like.
Good evening. So we just wanted to give you a little sample of what it will look like at Mount Prospect. Similarly to the other elementary schools, we'll be beginning and ending our day in homeroom. So after homeroom, there's every 5th grader will move into 1 of 5 classes. There'll be 3 math classes and 2 content classes in the morning. Followed by the related arts classes, and then a language arts block, and then lunch. And then we'll have the same type of setup as we had in the morning, the difference being now there'll be 2 math classes and 3 content classes. So every day students will have a math class and a content class. Some will have math in the morning and content in the morning. Some will have math in the afternoon. And then, like we said before, the homeroom will end the day with the homeroom. It's nice to be able to start the day with your homeroom class and be able to end the day with your homeroom class as well. So we feel good about that. Thank you.
So we're very excited to have this done, and we thank the board for their support, because we've been, you know, traveling this road a long time. I mean, even the days of like Mrs. Slutsky and Dr. Pecoraro, we've kind of put this all together, and so we're really happy to see it come to fruition. And I'll speak for all the principals. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us. We're happy to walk through a schedule with you. I actually had a parent wanted to go on a tour of the 5th grade wing, so we moved, you know, just like Mr. Sampola showed it. We went from one room to another just so that they get an idea of what the students are going to be doing. But I think what really solidified it for me was today, in talking to those 5th grade friends. They really were so excited. Dr. Oliver, I think it was you who mentioned, like, it's like a new elevation of 5th grade. Like, they thought they were cool when they got flexible seating in May in 5th grade in the cafeteria, but now it's a whole new echelon for them, and I think they're nervous, but they're excited, and I'm just very happy and excited for that. Anything you teachers wanted to add, or you just... they want lockers. Yes, they want lockers. We said, no, you'll wait for that in William Mannon. So yeah, we're not going to do that just yet. But we're going to have those awesome binders for them to carry, and we'll color code them, I'm sure, because Mrs. Fain loves color coding. So again, if there's any questions, please feel free to email us, and we'll be happy to walk you through any of our systems. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
I absolutely love the fact that each of our elementary schools presented their own flavor of what this looks like. So I guess this is more of a comment than a question. Next year at this time, I look forward to a repeat board presentation where we talk about the strengths and the areas of improvement with each model, and maybe we can build on the strengths and victories for each of these different models to create even stronger programs at each of the buildings. I love that we're trying variations on the same thing.
I just have a question about what follows. So has anyone talked to the 6th grade team yet, and how is that going to look, and when will they be part of the conversation? I know you have a year, but just curious when and how that will take place.
So just to Ms. Swerner's point, is there like a plan for some intra-school discussions during like, you know, for each quarter or something like that, or marking period, to bring all the teachers and administrators, 5th grade wise, to kind of talk about how it's going? Like what's the evaluation process look like?
Yeah, so just to tell you a little bit about the structure that we have in place. So we have ECC meetings, which are elementary curriculum committee meetings every month. So we have the entire administrative team and the curriculum team together to talk about it from an administrative level. And then every month we have elementary curriculum meetings with the staff. And so we usually leverage those meetings. For instance, that's how we leverage staff time for standards-based report cards at the earlier grades, and that would be a tool that we would use for bringing those 5th grade teachers together across schools and saying, okay, where are we at now? And we have usually 9 of those a year. So that would be the time we would hope to kind of, you know, exactly what that looks like, I don't know yet, but that would be the time that we put together and say, okay, how do we want to evaluate this? What's the feedback that we're looking for from staff as far as, you know, how the progress of the program is?
And I think for the planning stages, we've been doing that all along. All of these 5th grade teachers and administrators, we've been sharing documents, we've been sharing ideas, questions, solutions all along. So we expect that to continue as we go through the year in terms of evaluating, tweaking, looking for best practices. I think that's one of the ideal things about everybody trying a little bit different models, because it allows us to look for what do we think is the best practice for that school, and what do we think is the best practice for Burns Township's 5th grade as a whole.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, because I'm still a little surprised, not to like throw any, but you know, I have kids in school, I have a 5th grader, and this is still new to me, and I'm surprised that everyone's been talking about it since 2016. So I just to throw it out there, it's exciting to see all the teachers really excited about it. I think I love that. I think it's awesome. I'm a little concerned about how, like, the differences, because you know, you're sending all these kids into one school from all different schools, and they're going to be doing all different things, it seems like to me. And I'm also a big believer in grammar school. I don't know, like, they only have so many years in grammar school where they have a teacher and a class that they come very close to, and I understand that you need to, like, you know, the little transition is great. So when I'm looking through these, I almost am like a less is more type of person for this, because I feel like you lose something when you start breaking the kids up and pretending it's middle school when it really is still grammar school, when they're only 10 years old. They're not, I just have some issues with a couple of things. And it mostly was with, I was wondering, when I was looking at the Mount Prospect, I'm confused. I'm confused about, what is it, like, so your kids aren't going together in one class. They're
They'll be together for, so let's say they had Mrs. Fain for their homeroom teacher, and then they would have her for reading and writing. Then they may branch off to Mr. Greeley for math.
So that same class branches off, the whole class.
It'll be mixed up. So the Mrs. Fain's class will not platoon. They will go to Mr. Greeley and then to Mrs. Lambert. When they go to their math class, some of her class will split into Mr. Greeley, some of them might go into Mr.
And why?
It's the flexibility in grouping. Again, it's also to get them to enrich them socially. It's to get them to have different teachers and just to have access to different learning tools.
So it's just to mix the kids up, to give them different kids and that they're going to be dealing with in the classroom? It just sounds to me, I worry that it's going to become a grouping of kids, like all the smart kids are going to be going in one group, and I don't want to say smart kids, that's not what I mean. I mean, you're going to have like high, medium, and low, and that's why it worries me, because it's very easy to do that. It makes it, so I worry that it's going to be more of like a, grouping kids by.
But it's not. It's going to be because I do all the scheduling for K-5, and it's a mix of high, medium, and low. We're looking through test scores, we're looking through their individual records from their school, from their report cards, from the teachers, and you're going to have high achieving, you're going to have medium, you're going to have struggling learners. And that's what is going to be awesome, that the teachers are now going to be able to, rather than teaching all 5 subjects, now they're looking at either 2 or 3, and so they can zero in on those learners, and in that way. So the G&T kids that are already identified, they're still going to be meeting with Ms. Lindstrom. The students that are identified as special ed, they're still going to have an in-class support math with that.
Right, I'm just talking about breaking the class up. That's all. I'm just talking about they're still in grammar school and keeping their their class together is like a thing for the kids. I don't know. They have like a thing about it. Like my daughter loves it.
They still have that. They're going to have that in the homeroom, they're reading, they're writing, and then they'll come back. So really, they're only switching for math and content. They're switching twice. So it's not.
So you're breaking them up for math.
And content.
What's content?
That's science.
Oh, science. Okay, so, all right.
It's like what Mr. Zampola said. It's like a hybrid. It's a little bit.
It only worries me because if they're that different and if the parents are like, well, why are you guys doing that when my school's doing this and why, I just, and I understand it's like it's a pilot year and you're all, but once a school starts something, it's going to be very different. It's going to be very hard to change it if, I don't know, if it's not working or if, I don't know. I just have some concerns, that's all about it.
We agree that there are a lot of different pros and cons to compartmentalization versus platooning. That's why we're going to come together and kind of choose. So certain models, because I have 5 sections, they work differently than a school that has 4 sections. So we also have to put that into account. The number of students we have in grade level is a little bit different too. So, we are absolutely in agreement with you that we're going to reflect if we're going to be picking the different models. It's going to be special, for each one. It's just like when we went out and researched standard-based report cards. There are tons of different variations of it, but we picked the one that could work for us, and then the teachers came together and helped build it, which I think is what makes it most powerful, especially with our first graders are going to be the one. So yes, there's going to be growing pains as we talk to the 4th grade parents, but that's what we're here together. We're articulating together, and then with the teachers as well. And we'd like the parents to have parent input. I have 2 of my parent advisory committee members are 4th grade parents, so we will be having open sessions. We'll have roundtable formats. So I think through a lot of the reflection, a lot of the coming together, talking through. But to me, again, I come back to the teacher excitement to see the passion. See teachers here at like 9 o'clock at night. It's just amazing. So thank you for coming too. It's wonderful. We're really excited.
And not to be a pain, but my other question is the changing of the classes. I see none of the schedules have changed. Like there's no extra time in there, right? No one ever, anyone? Did you build in a little extra time? Only because, they move like, it's like herding cats and just from experience. And so,
We're all contained within one thing, and I think that's for all the buildings. So it's not like we're going to
No, sometimes I know even changing class in the classroom takes a long time, right? Like getting the books out, getting books. So that was that was the only other like concern. If you said you practiced a little bit, and I guess the kids, you know, you get like a stopwatch out and like to time them.
I like this in theory. I do worry that we have, 4 different varieties on the same topic. And when the kids get to William Ann, the teachers are going to have to understand and learn, and it's going to be hard, I think, and hard adjustment even here at this school, at William Ann, because they're going to have kids with all different kinds of experience and different levels of comfortability, I guess, with what they've come with from 5th grade. I do like the idea of it. I am concerned that each schedule shows a different amount of science and social studies. Some have science and social studies every day, both subjects. I think that it has to be more even. That's just my 2 cents. I think that if we're gonna talk about delivering curriculum, it should be the same amount of minutes per week per student. Those are my concerns.
What I like is that I think that this addresses the fact that it is difficult, and it has been difficult for years, for the kids from transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade. What I like in particular with the Cedar Hill and the Oak Street model is that even though you are trying to make that transition a bit easier, you're also keeping a lot of the self-contained by having them start, stay, and then return. My two concerns, one kind of piggybacks to something Jen brought up, which is I assume for every single school, for every single classroom, when you're making classes up from the start to the finish, they're all, all different ability levels. So I guess my question for the Mount Prospect would be, if you're already starting the day with the, for lack of a better word, the low, the middle, the top, why they wouldn't just travel? They're already mixed in that mixed up grouping. Why do they need to be mixed up again? That would be one question. My other question would be for Liberty Corner, if I'm understanding the schedule, it looks like every 4 weeks there'll be something different for these kids. So, because there's the A week, there's the B week. That's a little confusing to me as an adult. So I guess I think to myself, that's another thing for the kids to have to figure out, and that's not what they'll have to figure out when they get to William Annan. So my question is, if our goal is to be easing that transition, would it be more beneficial to stick with something that is more in likeness with what they'll experience than throwing something that's completely different into the mix?
I'll just say I think everyone has made most of the comments or questions that I was thinking of, but I wanted to thank all of you for coming out and all of your enthusiasm. And although we have some questions, obviously, or concerns, it sounds really exciting, and we're really happy that people are so enthusiastic about it. Okay, thank you.
Unless you'd like to make them solid.
No, I don't want.
Okay, we're up to superintendent's report. There are 4 items. Would someone like to make a motion to move them? Mrs. Swerner and Mrs. White, seconded. Did anyone have any questions about these items before we vote? And then I know Mr. Markarian wanted to say a few words. Does anyone have any questions? No, it's hard to see up here. I have to go like this on this new setup. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Let's just see what they are here. Well, I would like, so you mentioned HIB. What is number 2?
So the second item is a sidebar agreement between the Board of Education and the Berners Township Education Association associated with language that would allow excess snow days to come at the end of the school year after graduation rather than being made up via spring break.
Item number 1?
Item 1 is a resolution that would approve the memorandum of agreement between the Board of Education and the Berners Township Administrators Association approving their new contract effective July 1st.
And item number 4 sets up new extracurricular clubs. My vote is yes.
Mrs. Swerner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President?
Thank you.
So just to kind of highlight the meaning of these items, as just described, the first one should be a congratulations between the Board of Education and the Berners Township Administrators Association. Congratulations on entering into a new agreement effective July 1st, a new 3-year agreement. And a special thanks to all of the board members who served on the Personnel Committee and spent a lot of extra time meeting with the Administrators Association, and also a special thanks to all of the members of the BTAA who served on their negotiations committee and put in the extra time on behalf of their association of professionals. We're very thankful for everyone's efforts to successfully come to agreement. And then with regard to the second item, again, I wanted to thank both the Personnel Committee and the members of the Berners Township Education Association who put in some extra time and some meetings to help us out with a situation that was a bit of a challenge. that's traditionally been in place for many years in the district, whereby we've been making up snow days in excess of those that were already built into the calendar by having school during spring break as a way to make up time when necessary. I think that we've seen enough recent history over the last few years, and in particular this past winter, where we really had spring break decimated to the point where everybody was able to put their heads together and come to agreement that it'd be nice to have an option to instead preserve spring break and try adding some days after graduation. So that was the purpose of item number 2 and the agreement that was reached between the Burns Township Board of Education and the Burns Township Education Association. So I think that is also good news, and I actually heard a couple of the, at least one of the students mention that issue of the school calendar and spring break earlier this evening, so it's nice to see that that option is going to get exercised, and having the board's approval on this motion would allow me to issue some notes to parents this week, my usual weekly mailing, to kind of highlight how this would play out in terms of the snow day plan for the 18-19 school year. So I'll be sure to communicate that out to the school community and the parents to make sure everybody knows the plan for that. And so that's really very great news. And I just want to take the opportunity before I forgot, since this is the last board meeting that we have prior to our graduation ceremonies, which are tomorrow for William Annan and Wednesday for Ridge High School, to just congratulate all of our graduating students, those moving up, and in particular to our high school seniors. And if you have a senior who is graduating on Wednesday night, congratulations to you. It's a very exciting time. You know, sad and exciting at the same time when they move on and make the nest emptier. But congratulations just the same. And also, I hope everybody had a nice Father's Day over the weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Markarian. And I'll just reiterate a thank you to the BTAA members who are here tonight that were on the negotiating team, because it was a lot of work for you guys, and I wanted to thank you. Okay, so we're up to public comment on agenda items. At this point, if you're going to come up for public comment on an agenda item, please, is the clipboard down there? Yeah, okay, sign in on the clipboard. You can actually sign in after you speak if you'd like to make it move along. No public comment for agenda items? Okay, I'll close the public comment. We're up to approval of minutes. We have one item. Would someone like to make a motion? Oh, Mr. Salmon and Mrs. Korn. Any questions about the minutes? Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Mrs. Swarner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President?
Thank you. We're up to the Finance Committee. We have 24 items, I think. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Wooldridge and Mrs. Gray, seconded. Yeah, I have to look. There's a hand. No, it's just. Did anyone have any questions about the items before we vote on them, and then I could do the report afterwards?
Yes, I'd like to have each one at least identify.
Okay, I'll go through them then. I'll just go ahead and do the committee report, and I'll do that at the end because that's what we did at the end of the committee. Okay, so at the beginning of the Finance Committee, we went over contracts with Horizon Blue Cross. There's 3 different contracts that were, 2 of them are on the agenda this evening. The first is the contract for stop-loss insurance that we need now that we are self-funded. This was in last month's committee report, and so I'm not going to go into all the detail. We went through it again. It's exactly, I think, what we saw last month, but the contract is ready to be approved. The second contract is for Horizon to administer the processing of claims, which we also discussed at last month's Finance Committee. So this contract is also ready to approve, and this is just that Horizon's going to continue to process claims the way they have been, even though we have a new type of plan. And then, so those 2 are on the agenda. And then the third contract we're going to vote on in July is for the management of the health savings accounts that the BTAA is going to have as part of the new contract. And we'll have more details about that. We're going to vote on it on July 23rd, but we will be able to get everything all ready for the implementation of the health savings plans in time. And Mr. McLaughlin at the meeting thanked Mr. Colombo and others at Arthur Gallagher for answering questions and concerns from the BTAA members over the past several weeks while we were going through the process of coming up with this health savings account plan. The next thing we discussed at the finance meeting was replacing hardware in our doors in the district. This is something that's come up, and it was also mentioned during our security consultant report. So we've been using the magnets for the doors to have teachers be able to take the magnet out. We want the doors to be able to be locked from inside the room. The fire marshal doesn't want us to use the magnets on the fire doors, so the finance committee is recommending that we replace the locks on the fire doors. It's quite expensive. We have a range of estimates from around $220,000 to $290,000 to do, I think, 230.
Actually, it'll be more.
More than
remember,
that, because those other doors, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
because there are 34 doors that weren't identified at that time.
Okay.
And in addition, there is still yet to be resolved the question of whether we're going to have rekeying of all the cores in all the doors or use the existing cores. So that's kind of a jump-off point.
Okay.
Just didn't want people to come away thinking it was
Okay, so the committee is recommending that we move forward with this. It's something that needs to be done, and put this out to bid at the earliest possible date. The project will probably be completed over the course of the school year because there's a lot of different doors that need, and they're not all the same. There's all different doors that were put in place in different decades that have different types of hardware in them, so there's different varieties of what needs to be done to them. We can continue to use the magnets on the non-fire doors, but we do want to replace those locks over the following years, so we'll work that into our facilities plans going forward. Let's see. We talked about Title I. As some of you will remember, last year we got Title I money for the first time, and we used some of that money for RTI. Then we found out from the state this year that we were not getting any Title I money, so we want to continue with RTI, and so we budgeted to continue that program even though we didn't get the Title I money. Then we got a letter more recently saying that the state did say that we're eligible this year. We're not quite sure how they do their calculations. They use federal data and state data, and we're not quite sure why they changed their methodology 2 years ago or why we were originally notified that we weren't getting it, and now we are. But of course, it's good news if we get money. So now we do plan on getting some Title I money this year. The total allocation is anticipated to be $324,000, which I think, Mr. McLaughlin, is that similar to last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was good news. Okay, then the agenda items, Mike, that you wanted to go through. So the first several items, 1 through 3, are standing items. Item 4 is various professional development and training. Item 5 is the sale of outdated equipment. Item 6 is the annual resolution to enroll Ridge in our athletic conference.
It's changed.
Oh, it changed? I'm sorry. I'm reading from my minutes.
It's
I got to
approval
go
of the
through.
supplemental capital reserve.
Okay, so item 6, what happened to the athletic one? Is it there still?
It was removed subsequent to our meeting because we found that it had been previously approved.
Oh, we already did it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, we did it.
My apologies.
We did it before, that's okay. So item 6 is to put money in our capital reserve. Item 7, where's 7? 7 is also for our maintenance reserve. Item 8 is the services, let me get back to my minutes, because I have it in there, for a firm that
They do the energy tracking.
does our energy
management
tracking for the
system.
district. Let's see. This is getting me all mixed up. Okay, the next is the bid award for concrete repairs across the district. Then we have a number of special education services and placements for students, all the way up until number up through number 20, right?
20.
Yeah.
It's 20.
Okay, 21. Okay, number 22 is the contract that I just discussed before with Horizon for the stop-loss insurance. Number 23 is the contract that I discussed before for them to do our claims. and number 24 is a settlement. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about those items?
I just have one comment that $300,000 door replacement cost is, that came out of nowhere.
Well, it's been recommended on our plans by our
Well,
architects that we want to do this.
It came out as a result, really, of conversation that has been going on with the fire marshal here for more than a year, which we've talked about a number of times, and we've tried a number of different solutions. And I don't want to steal Nick's thunder if he wants to talk about it more, but you know, after pursuing a number of options and possibilities with him and trying to see if officials at the state level above him had any thoughts or considerations to give us, and then talking with the administrators at each of the buildings about this, we are at a place where this is the most viable option to solve everyone's concerns.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move on to personnel. There's, I think, oh, roll call, sorry.
Yeah.
Forgot we didn't.
We
have a
did.
motion? We did, yeah.
Yes. Mr. Byrne?
Yes?
Mrs. Swerner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes on everything through 23 and abstaining on 24.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McHugh?
Yes,
Madam President?
thank you. We're up to personnel. We have 35 items. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Swerner? And second, Mrs. Wooldridge?
And I think, let me go ahead and read my report since we're voting on some of the items explained in it. One of the things we'll be voting on is to abolish the 4-hour daily parking lot attendant position at Ridge. We are not eliminating the position, we're just redefining it to reflect more responsibilities in the upcoming year. Regarding the Director of School Security, which we've spoken about at several previous meetings, we have identified some candidates. We have at least one highly qualified applicant, and interviews are going to be happening in the next few weeks. Regarding the SLEO3, Chief of Police Shimsky is working on identifying candidates. He has done both an internal posting and may need to look externally to identify qualified candidates for that position. We'll also be voting tonight on adding the title of Assistant Business Administrator to our central office. We've had that position in the past. The person who was currently in that role as Mr. McLaughlin's number 2 person just received the appropriate business administrator certification, so we would like to upgrade him to the appropriate title based on his qualifications. We will also be voting tonight to appoint Mr. Blinder as the Website Accountability Coordinator. This is just one of our annual appointments, but it's a new one, and that's why it's being voted on tonight. He's going to work with each school's individual website coordinator to ensure the OCR compliance. We're going to be adding a Foundations of Language class at William Annan Middle School. It was actually approved in 2015, but just this year we've had enough enrollment to run the course. It's a course where the goal is to help students who are not comfortable learning a language in full to be exposed to the World Language Program. It's going to be a half-year elective with a focus on strategies of how to learn Spanish. There are 11 students enrolled in this class, and Mr. Syed's going to post the job to have one of our current Spanish language teachers teach a sixth section of the class for that. At the Personnel Committee, we reviewed enrollment data and identified areas where we may need to add an additional hire based on class sizes if they get big enough. And then the big project that we're starting to initiate next year, this year we obviously just ratified a contract with the BTAA. Next year we will be negotiating with the BTEA for their contract. And we're doing something a little different. We met with a couple of leaders from the BTEA to start the process just in the context of stipends. Right now, there are lots of staff members doing sports, leading extracurricular activities, and it's been brought to our attention that the pay scale is not, I can't find the right word, the pay for some of these positions is not appropriate for the amount of time and energy put in. So we started with an initial meeting. The BTEA came to us with a proposal of how to modify and enhance, or actually raise some of the stipends to make them appropriate and commensurate with the positions that are being doing. We're just starting that process, but our goal is to have the stipends worked out before we actually initiate contract negotiations next year. And then finally, we developed committee goals for next year. We have 3 of them. The first one is to develop an adjusted stipend plan prior to BTEA contract negotiations by December. Our second goal is to negotiate and ratify a new BTEA contract by June 30th. And our final goal is to participate in critical hiring decisions as needed, and we all know they come up during the course of any year. If you all noticed the incredible thickness of tonight's agenda, a few trees unfortunately have died in the process, but this is our annual appointment of our staff to all their positions. That is why it is so heavy. Are there any questions before we vote?
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes?
Mrs. Swarner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Madam President?
Thank you. We're up to the policy committee. Well, I guess we should move the item. We have one item. Would someone like to move that?
Yep.
Okay, Mrs. Corn and Mr. Salmon second.
All right. Can't find policies. Hold on. We met on the May 14th, and I think I read some of this out, but we had discussed the regulation 2624 and the grading system. We were just, and we were just talking about like research, like new language for the regulation regarding when, like what teachers, when the teacher, how long assessments should be kept by a teacher, and how they could communicate to the students and the parents when they will be getting rid of or disposing of assessments or paperwork that they have for the students. Like how long they have to retain the portfolio, and like maybe probably just until the start of the next year when the kids are out or are done with that class or that grade. And Nick was checking if the change in the board approval, and it's just a discussion. It wasn't, nothing was changed yet. And we also talked about the policy 8210, which is the school district calendar, and it was already mentioned that because we are working on brainstorming options for the school calendar and the language adjustment. And one of them, and the parameters for suggested changes for future calendars, 1920 and beyond, would be the number of school days for the students should not exceed 183. There'll be no days for staff or students in August, and the goal is to have graduation no later than June 20th. So that's for the future calendars. I'll redo them. We looked over a new format example for the school calendars. I think we all saw those. And I know that since it was approved, the language with the TA regarding snow days, extra snow days would be, instead of during taking it from spring break, we'd be taking it from the end of the year. So we would build in 4 or 5 snow days. The early snow days could be made up, on Martin would be January 20th, and February 16th, which was Martin Luther King Day, and also this is the Tuesday. 16th is the Tuesday of our President's Weekend vacation. That would be for early snow days. If we exceed all built-in snow days, and we would have to we could make up any necessary days to reach the 180 by adding days in June after graduation.
the 18-19 calendar, we can take the extra days after graduation. And right now, the New Jersey Department of Education is saying that we can do this. As of now, the Attorney General has not authorized it, but we're still going to go ahead and put it there and then let them tell us. We had the sidebar with the teachers talking about the snow days and not taking them out of spring break, they put them at the end of the year. We have to approve the new format. When Nick can pick up the form, we can approve it and he can talk to the parents about it. They have to designate in-service days and then reapprove it. The new snow day plan for 18-19. So it's not changing any. We're not changing any days of school for next year. We're just reallocating what we do with the snow days. That's all we're doing. We're not adding, taking away, nothing. It's just the makeup plan for our snow days. Is what's being revised. And then we have some first reading, some policies, and this is just some changes that were made by the state. So. It's the equal employment and anti-discrimination practices, the policy and regulation. So the Office of Civil Rights, these are Office of Civil Rights revisions. The policy title is change only, and the regulation changes. The complainant can go over their immediate supervisor's head if they are not available and or feel they are compromised. So that's just that. Then there's the athletic competition and medical examination prior to participation in a school-sponsored interscholastic or intramural senior squad. So what it's just saying that we must distribute the cardiac arrest pamphlets and opioid pamphlets to all participants. Varsity letters for interscholastic extracurricular activities. There's a new policy expanding the use of varsity letters beyond sports. There's also the 5350 student suicide prevention. It's a policy and the regulation and the policy of reporting potentially missing or demised children. This is a memo from the State Board of Ed. The school staff is required to report suicide attempts or completed suicides to the Department of Children and Families. The real change is that they restructured the New Jersey agencies, so it's really just who you report it to. And then, so we were just going to have to add a box to the suicide prevention form and online reporting. And then there's a student smoking, which is P5533, the policy. It addresses vaping, but we already did that in the beginning of the year. And it addresses the new age, which is 21, to buy any kind of tobacco products. And then a passive breath alcohol sensor device, policy of 5535. So we must display notice at the point of sale to let people know that there will be breathalyzing at any event. So wherever they're buying the tickets, you have to let them know that there might be breathalyzed. There's the use of physical restraint and seclusion techniques for students with disabilities, the policy and regulation 5561. You're already aware of the new language. It's designed to protect students, and it's that restraint and seclusion techniques are used appropriately and parents are advised of their use. And that was just to change that. And I think that is everything.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? These are all first readings, so.
It's all first reading, yes.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we have to have a roll call.
Well, is that
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Mrs. Werner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Savage?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Woldridge?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Madam President?
Thank you. Okay, we're up to curriculum. We have one item. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Woldridge? Mrs. Swarner? Do you want to do your report and then we can vote on it?
Yeah. So, the curriculum committee met on June 8th, and we did have a chance to go over the textbooks that are on the agenda for tonight, and there are 9, and they're all listed on the agenda for various courses. Let's see, we talked about, we did have the opportunity to talk with the principals about the grade 5 plans, but we've already had a presentation on that, and I wouldn't have anything to add from the meeting. Dr. Heineman distributed a handout that lists all the summer curriculum writing projects that are scheduled for summer 2018. We also had some topics for discussion
which I'm sure will be continuing in the future. One is making some changes potentially to the add-drop policies at Ridge for dropping a course and replacing it with a study hall, and potentially for level changes as well. And the administration is going to develop a proposal for any changes and report back to the curriculum committee. We also discussed the timing of entering grades at Ridge, and Mr. Krause said that he had discussed this topic at a recent faculty meeting, and committee members raised some concerns about some classes where students at the time still had few or no grades entered for the fourth marking period, so we had some discussion about that and what could be done. And we also had a discussion about note-taking and textbook use at Ridge and William Annan. And the teachers are now using more technology and posting class presentations on Google Classroom. So this has impacted students' note-taking skills and the need to take extensive notes. Let's see. And as far as textbook use, some teachers use them frequently, others use them as a resource. It was suggested that teachers show students how to use the textbooks and other technology resources in order to help them develop skills for independent learning. We went over some course and program updates for the 2019-20 school year. One of them is Photo 3 and AP Photo. Currently, Photo 3 is a full year course, and Mr. Fackelman said that teachers also would like to offer an AP Photo course, and the two courses would be combined in the same class in the 2019-20 school year. There's a proposal for a new class for special education students at Ridge called Social Skills Art. Currently, students have not been able to participate in general education, some of the students in the CBAP and CI programs have not been able to participate in the general art electives at Ridge due to the need for modifications. So this would be a class for them. And social skills dance and social skills music are currently offered at Ridge and have been very successful. There are some changes to some of the Project Lead the Way classes. Introduction to Engineering Design and Principles of Engineering both have new student resource pages. Introduction to Engineering Design and Civil Engineering and Architecture have been updated to support Autodesk 2018. Principles of Biomedical Science has been reorganized to improve student workflow. Human body systems and medical interventions have some lesson updates. And then Ms. Fox said that the social studies teachers have been looking to improve the community service requirement at Ridge, and some of the teachers feel it should be more closely connected with a course. The teachers are surveying the students, and Ms. Fox will share more details at a future curriculum committee meeting. Dr. Heineman distributed drafts of standard-based report cards for kindergarten and second grade. They were used for grade 1 in the current school year. The drafts will be finalized during the summer. And in July 2018, work will begin on 3 program evaluations, K through 5 science, 3 through 5 English language arts, and visual arts 9 through 12. And finally, a parent had a question about a suicide prevention video that was recently shown in 6th grade health. The Science of Suicide curriculum is being used, but the students' assistance counselors are also using a video from the Lifeline Suicide Prevention curriculum. Curriculum writing for health at William Annan is scheduled for this summer, and an update on the status of the new Science of Suicide curriculum will be provided at our next curriculum committee meeting in July. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Mrs. Swerner?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray? Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Richmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Waldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McHugh?
Yes.
Madam President?
Okay, we're up to advocacy.
Advocacy met on June 4th. It was the last meeting of the year. So we took the opportunity to thank the outgoing presidents for all their hard work and generous donations throughout the year. Without their support, our districts wouldn't have some of the wonderful programming, enrichments, and more at each school. We also welcomed the new PTO presidents for next year, and we are looking forward to working with them next school year, and we wish them all a happy and safe summer. We talked about PTO donations and fundraising. Mr. Markarian explained the process for getting approvals for fundraising for their schools. Any donation over $1,000 needs Board of Education approval and a resolution to be accepted. So we talked to them about that procedure. Mr. Markarian also explained that about the strategic planning meetings in October and November next year and invited them all to attend. He talked about how we'll be discussing the strengths of the district, the challenges that we face, and the ways in which we can tackle those challenges. We are inviting staff members, parents, students, community leaders, and other interested members of the public to contribute their thoughts, ideas, and hopes so that we can effectively plan for the future of our students. The dates for those workshops are October 1st, October 15th, and November 5th at 7 p.m. in the Ridge Cafeteria. He kindly requests that people RSVP to strategicplanning@bernardsboe.com so that we can get a head count and plan for these evenings, and a facilitator from the New Jersey School Boards will be helping us with those meetings. Mr. Markarian reported out that he had reached out to Mr. Dunn Savage, the superintendent of the Somerset County Educational Services Commission, who is our bus provider. They talked about seatbelt issue, and Mr. Dunn Savage just assured us that all the school buses provided by the SCESC that are used to transport students to and from school are equipped with seatbelts. We congratulated Mr. Markarian for being named County Superintendent of the Year. Community in Crisis has approached some PTOs about bringing popular speaker Dr. Bradley back to the district to talk to elementary schools parents about anxiety and stress in our youngest students. The elementary PTO leadership is going to be discussing it, and will report back whether they're going to be going forward with that or not. Someone mentioned that the showing of screenagers was being considered, so we'll have to follow up on that in September. There was a question about Bernards Township Board of Education policy for PTO board members posting on social media, and if perhaps the policy committee wanted to create guidelines for them, and whether this even fell under the jurisdiction of the Board of Ed or the individual PTOs. Talked about the Ridge update, security update, which has already been reported out, and that's it. Have a good summer. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Ad hoc SEL didn't meet, right?
We're meeting on Thursday.
Thursday, okay. Liaison committee reports?
I just have a really quick. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, why don't you go ahead?
It's really fast. The Somerset County Ed Services Commission met on the 14th, and it was the reorganization meeting, so there wasn't really a lot of content to the meeting, but it was interesting to note that Mr. Dunn Savage made a point when someone asked a question about school bus safety of proudly announcing how well they serve us, and how, as Mrs. Richmond just pointed out, we have seatbelts on all of our school buses, and that we have reliable drivers, knock wood, and that compared to many other districts, and he highlighted a few that have as many as 10 vendors providing their school buses, that we are quite fortunate.
Yes.
And then he also had a very nice compliment from Mr. Markarian about how hard he works in those snowy wee morning hours on our roads in Bernards Township at 3 and 4 in the morning, making sure that our buses can pass safely.
Mrs. Waldridge?
Yeah, I just, the Municipal Alliance met on June 5th, and I just wanted to mention a couple of things. One is their annual Twilight Challenge fundraiser was very successful, and the weather was good, which was good. Sometimes it pours because it's a 5K race. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the Township Committee approved a stigma-free resolution for our town, and that was sponsored by the Municipal Alliance, so I thought that was good news.
Thank you. Okay, we're up to public comment on non-agenda items.
Hello, my name is Debbie Murray Breslow, 38 Watchung Drive. I have a couple of follow-up questions. One is to the SEL committee. It relates to comments that were made 2 meetings ago, and then also some comments that were made during the board forum. So 2 meetings ago, and I think this is important to follow up on, there was talk about feedback from teachers. A phrase called grade scheming was used, where some students will concentrate more on a class that has more credits and then potentially take an I in a class that has less credits and then complete it after the marking period is over. So I was wondering if we could speak to that a little bit more. In the board forum, my question last time was raised about the recent graduates providing feedback to teachers. I'm still not clear on how those teachers are getting feedback from the students. There was some talk about a survey, but the survey was done in the past, years ago, and they said that they stopped doing it because they had low feedback, low participation, less than 10%. So from my hearing the discussion that was going on, it seemed like there was very recent feedback being provided by recent graduates to teachers. So if we could talk a little bit more about how that feedback is getting to the teachers. I understand that the teachers are invited to the committee meetings, but I don't understand the flow from the recent graduates to the teachers. So that's sort of one bucket of questions that I had. And the next one was if the board could speak to what your official and unofficial policy is on mid-year assessments and end-of-year assessments. These are also known as midterms and finals. I asked before because I had a class of 2017 graduate, and when he was a freshman, they had quarterlies. This school did away with quarterlies, but I think it's been replaced with midterms and finals, at least for some classes. The honors chemistry class did take an end-of-year assessment that did not count towards their grade, but they did take a midterm that was counted to their grade. So I was hoping that the board could speak a little bit on the history of midterms and finals and the purpose for those assessments. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? No? Okay, at this point, I'll close public comment.
I can speak to the SEL comments. The survey we used to do, it was a survey called LifeTrack, and we used them when I was wearing the guidance director hat many moons ago. We used that service for about 6 years in the district, and the intent was a good one because we did talk about getting feedback about preparation for students and how they were moving through college and really retention rates at college, so how well they were doing. And this was now, I'm talking 10, 12 years ago. And one of the problems with it, though, was that particular service, and again, the follow-up was difficult to get. That was pre-digital age, where now I did look at them as a result of the last meeting, and there are other companies, of course, but they in particular are now doing things a little bit different. They're mobilizing the social media. They're trying to use that a little bit more to get more from students. So I think it is worth looking at again, because I think that is important. I know that just working with the guidance department, I know that that would be valuable information for them to hear back from graduates. And also, the real issue is retention. How long students are staying in college? Are they transferring? Are they moving to other programs? Are they going in undecided? That's valuable information for us. The other piece, on the grade scheming, that was a comment made by a teacher, unsolicited. It just came up in conversation, and my interpretation of the comment was that it was about prioritizing time. It's how they there's only so many buckets, and so I think that from their perspective, they were saying that and again, one content area, this was only one teacher for one content area, said that they felt like the AP classes that particular student was taking, they were spending most of their time on those classes and spending less time in non-AP classes just because of the workload and the volume. But again, a very limited perspective. It would be interesting to hear from other teachers. Is that something they're seeing? But I do think that the idea of prioritizing time, I think that that is something that we've seen. Heck, I used to do that, right? You know, there's only so much time. One of the things actually that came up in earlier meetings was the idea that students are staying up really late to get homework done, and so I think there's that too, where, you know, when are students completing homework assignments, how much time are they spending, and are they planning? You know, some of that comes down to planning and waiting till the last minute, and procrastinating, so those are all really important things. That's why I think the board found it valuable, the SEL committee, to hear from teachers, and I hope that that's something that we'll continue to hear from different groups of teachers too, because I think the teachers got a lot out of it, and I know we did too. But I'll follow up more on that comment too, to try to get some more information on it, so that we can get more information, because I'm just interpreting what I heard from that one staff member on the committee. Oh yes, sure. Yeah, I could talk to the other one too. I'm the historian, the social studies educator. So the other question was about assessments at Ridge and the evolution. So, you know, we've looked at this issue. We have looked at it since I've been here for 14 years, the idea of trying to develop authentic assessments and yet still try to mirror what happens in college. So you have this balance where we're trying to prepare kids, but at the same time come up with an assessment that's valuable and meaningful and isn't a cram session. And so those two don't always mesh really well together. And so when I came here, we did have a very traditional system, a midterm and a final in just about every content area. And there was desire at that time, this is 2007, for teachers to take a look at different alternatives, more authentic, and to chunk the information. And so the idea was that you allow students to focus on quarters or on marking periods. And so teachers were building toward this summative assessment at the end of the marking period. So the idea grew out of an assessment committee that was held here, where at the time Mr. Howlett was on it, all of the Ridge administration, the supervisors, and we did some surveys at the time, did some research, and at that time we came up with that, well, we didn't come up with it, but we decided to move forward with that quarterly idea with, again, the goal was we want students to leave the class with the content. It was more important that they had the content acquisition, skill acquisition. Grades important, but more important that they leave that class with the skills and the content. So we thought it would be easier for them to chunk that information. And so the outcome of it was that, yes, in most classes, they were internalizing the information more, but then what I brought up earlier was an issue, and that was, were we preparing kids for those summative assessments in college, those midterms and those finals. So, you know, it's cyclical. Everything in education is very cyclical. So then we looked at it again and started to move back toward this idea that, can we find a way to still generate that enthusiasm, that interest, where students are studying, internalizing, and yet still getting an authentic assessment. And that's what we started to read last year, grading from the inside out, looking at authentic assessments, different ways to test. And so we're kind of, the way I would look at it is we're slowly moving back toward some form of a culminating assessment. I don't want to use those words, final and midterm, because that's something that obviously the curriculum director should weigh in on. But that's just the history. I just wanted to give you the history of it from my perspective when I was in that position. So that's kind of where we are now.
Thank you, Mr. Syed. Okay, we're up to board forum. Does anyone have anything?
I have one item that I think is important. My daughter is a pediatrician, and she's giving physicals now to college-bound students, and they generally are expressing stress as a problem that they have. And what's the stress caused by? Phones and social media. That's quite a bit different than we're pressuring the kids with forcing them to study harder. So I just listed again, I haven't heard from the SEL committee, telephone issue and the social media, but college-bound kids are telling me.
Anyone else have anything else? Mr. Salmon.
I know I've only been on the board for a few months, but I am continually amazed by the success of the students in this district. It's unbelievable, all of the accomplishments they have, and the more they come to this, it's more kind of enthusiasm for the teachers and the parents, and I have just young kids, so it's great to see all that. The second thing, though, is that I think this is the third time I've heard students come up at some of these meetings and talk about the reluctance of the students to go to guidance counselors for issues other than kind of, curricular or college planning. So I think for Ms. Smith, who's coming in, it would be a good goal or something for her to develop, like, whether to start that really young with the kids and have them, meet the guidance counselor as first day, like meet the teachers sort of thing, and then kind of have it come up as a thing that grows organically, and then do something at the high school level where it destigmatizes, because this Project Citizen presentation that the girls made was really great, and they had that on the list. So I just it was another kind of theme that came up. So it'd be great to hear from Ms. Smith at some point if she could institute something that would get Project Citizen to kids to kind of get other kids involved, or there was some other kind of program that would indicate that the kids are using all these other programs that we create, but that might not be efficacious in terms of being used. So I just wanted to point that out. And congrats to Mr. Markarian again.
Anyone else?
No. I was going to say, I thought that the kids were really, with their presentation, they were so impressive, and they really did their homework, which I thought was great. And it's nice to hear from the students about stuff like that, like just from them talking, and they really brought up some great points, which, be on the SEL committee, it's really stuff that we talk about, and they really are right on it, So I wish they kind of stayed for a little bit longer. It's kind of lonely in here now, but thanks to everyone who stayed. But it just was nice to see all. It was so nice to have all the kids here, and they're getting their awards, and everyone's all excited, and it was great. And it was really, and I want to see how excited. It was so nice to see the teachers so excited about the platooning, even though I have questions about it. But it was so nice to see the teachers really psyched about something, and about being able to teach what they're really passionate about. I thought that was great too. So I just wanted to say that. You can really see how they really want to help the kids. They want to do the best for the kids. It really comes across. So I was just glad to see that and hear from some of the teachers. That was nice as well. And also for Mr. Burns, we haven't met the SEL committee in a couple months. So cell phones are on my list, man. I'm down with questioning them. So don't worry about it. It's there. It's an issue, I think, for kids too. It's my number one issue at home. So I'm sure a lot of people too. If I could get my kids off their phones, their IQs would probably go up at least 20 points. So it's on the radar.
Mrs. Gray?
Just two quick things. I apologize. If Mr. Syed said this, I didn't hear him, but I was simultaneously looking for an old copy of the minutes. There's been a couple of questions over the last couple of meetings about the feedback to teachers from students. It's because students come back and visit their teachers because they love them and they've enjoyed their experience with them, and they share how they feel now that they've gone to college. And it was entirely anecdotal as it was shared with the committee, and we expressed interest in some vehicle, which Mr. Syed shed light on the fact that that is much more difficult than it seems on the surface. And I just wanted to kind of piggyback on Mr. Salmon's comment to say, have faith. Some of the kids, and I've been fortunate to have 3 who love their guidance counselor and would walk in and see them any time of the week or any time of the day. So I think we can do more to encourage kids to have that comfort level with it, but the counselors are willing, and getting the right connections is probably where we need to go with that.
Anyone else? Okay, so we're up to adjournment. Would someone like to make a motion? Mrs. Waldridge and Mrs. White?
Wait to say aye. Aye.
Adjourning.